Good afternoon, people. Good afternoon. So, the funniest thing happened to me today. So, remember I was telling you I was going back and forth with this guy about this job. He had two doors that he needed repaired and desperately needed repaired. So the hinges, the pivot hinges that you commonly see on commercial storefront aluminum frame doors, sometimes they use top and bottom. Well, they always use top and bottom, but then they sometimes use intermediate pivots. So it really just depends on how large the door. So the larger the door, they'll use more hinges. So these pivot hinges are notorious for failing. Typically, it is the top hinge that fails first because most of the weight, the door is supported on that top hinge. So with that being said, the force of that door starts to lean into and then the bottom hinges ultimately fail as a result as well. So then that door start leaning into the frame, and that's where you see the little marks, the grinding marks against the frame. So you can see where it's rubbing. So he had that. He had 15 locks he wanted rekeyed, and he also needed cylinders for each one of these locks. Okay, so it's going to be costly. Then he also needed a bar on so two doors and 15 locks, all new equipment on these doors. So I originally quoted him something along $2,000 or something. So I've said this already, so I won't repeat everything, but what I will say for those who are hearing it for the first time, I went back, I sent the invoice to this guy. He told me to send it to him by email, and then he'll respond to me. So I gave him that time. He didn't respond, so I called him back, right? So you want to find out what's going on, if there's something that we can do. But what I did do to make sure that I didn't lose out on every single thing on the door, I said I broke it up. Okay, so if you want the doors repaired, here is the labor for that. If you want the rekeys, this is the labor that's going to cost for this. Now, for rekeys, I normally do it as a unit price, so the labor is already built into it. So I don't charge you any addition. So I charged him that, right, for the 15 rekeys. And then for all the equipment that comes with the bars that he needed replaced. He had a number of other exit devices that's on the door. And exit devices is for being able to exit. It is so they're push bars, and it allows for immediate egress out of the door with the press of the bar. All right, so you see them across doors. All right, cool. So I gave him the quote for it. He obviously didn't like it. So when I talked to him again, I asked him, was it a bit much? So then he said, well, man, come, can we just need to get the doors done then, so on and so forth. We just need the doors done. Okay, I agree. That's the most pressing issue. So let's do the doors. No point of changing locks on a door that's hanging. So I take the time and I go back out there today. Tell him what the quote is going to be. Now, majority of the quote, as you can imagine, right, was just thinking about things analytically for a second. If I give you a quote, if you told me you had two doors hanging on that were in need of repair, these are commercial doors. These aren't your standard residential door, right? So these are commercial doors that require labor and it's different from installing a pre-hung door in your house. So it's more labor intensive involved in hanging these doors and making sure that they are aligned right. So with that being said, most of the quote was for the door and not labor. So this person calls me out there and I take the measurements for the door because he's ready to move on it like right away. Okay, cool. So am I. So I go out there and I tell him, I say, hey, look, well, I'm sorry that didn't work for you, but I did it that way for a reason in case there was something that we could still work. You can use our company for if you couldn't do the whole project. I understand that you're on whatever your budget is. I'm not trying to count your money. So I'm willing to work within your budget for what we can do. If your budget is $600 and the part costs $600, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, but we can't do it, and I'm not going to go steal the product and to make myself feel better so I can have that profit. Then I just can't do the job. I'm sorry. And obviously I would never say this to my customers. So I'm just saying that, hey, look, so we can't do it. Whatever your budget is, we'll take a look at it and then we'll see what we can do. So I take the measurements and I go back and I say, well, hey, look, now I'd already sent him the estimate for what the doors were, what it would cost to fix the door and the amount of labor. Now he's telling me, oh, I also need a bar on this door. It has to be repaired. Okay, great. I can fix that. So the price that I originally had given him still stands. Nothing changed. The only difference is, what is different is I took out the rekeys because he didn't want that, and I took out the equipment for the new mortars, for the new cylinders that he wanted. Those are gone. Now the only thing that you are paying for is the price of the doors to have them repaired, the labor and the parts, the 2 continuous hinges that you need to repair those doors. And I'm also adding now, so that was the same. I didn't pull a fast one on them. And then I'm going to add the push bars that you want. I'm going to add that to it now. So I send them over that quote with just adding the push bar. The push bar for this that I added, and with, well, again, the labor was built into it. And I told him how many hours this was going to take to get this all installed. So the estimate dropped, right? Because I took out all of that other stuff from the original. And I just added on the bar, which was under $300, right? For everything. Additional. That was the additional price added on. So I send it over to him and I let him know. I give him the price. He's like, okay, well, let me see what we're going to do. Okay, cool. All of a sudden, a friend of mine calls me and says, dude, I just got this job. This girl I know want me to do this daycare. Now, it didn't originally. Now, I thought about it and I was trying to get, because I'm also doing a daycare as well. I'm doing 2. So I was kind of like, hold up, did this other one flake out on me? Because I've already purchased the parts for that particular job, and she rescheduled for Monday. So I'm listening, right? So this my cop mode. So I'm listening. I'm just, taking notes. And I said, so I started asking questions, and I said, so yeah, what does she want? What are you doing? So he's saying, hey, look, well, he's primarily automotive. I really like the guy. He's a cool dude. So I help him out. And he's willing to help me out when I need help. So I said, cool. So what you need? He wanted me to come over with him so we can price this out, because that's not his area of expertise on the commercial side of it, especially, well, mostly dealing with doors and that type of thing, and access control and stuff. So not a problem. I absolutely help you with somebody to help me. And I told him I would, and as he started talking, I said, well, where's it at? And he says, well, he gives me the address of where it is. So the guy who we've been going back and forth, who finally says he needs to get this done right away, he still was not quite convinced that I wasn't cheating him. Or, right, because take pride out of it, he just wanted to see if he can get a better price. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in this industry, like in other industries, people talk, right? It's a small community of those that are legitimate and very good locksmiths. So I am not the cheapest locksmith around. I am not. Or security technician is what I prefer, to be referred to, because I don't just rekey locks. I don't just put on locks. I take the entire opening. I can look at the entire building, and I can do the assessments. One of my jobs overseas was a security professional, and one of the things that I did was investigate blast sites. So after we were bombed, and we would go, and there was a matter of dimensions and mortars, and we would work with other personnel who did this, and we would determine blast radius and risk mitigation is what it was actually called. So in that position of doing risk mitigation, I would go in and tell you how to fortify your building. What is the standoff distance that you needed to be to mitigate a blast of, this magnitude, this type of rocket attack, and how to help mitigate that. Can't eliminate, but we can mitigate it. So, and then I would go outside the perimeter. This is Afghanistan. And and then we would fill, do HESCO bags and all this stuff, and sandbags, and then, and then do concertina wire, and had to do all of this stuff. So when I go into so I take those, obviously the threat is not the same, but when I go into a building, I'm looking at the totality of your security needs. So I might be there for just to change a lock, but depending on why you're changing a lock, I can recommend to you, you know, maybe you should think about a camera. Not just because I want to make money. Absolutely I want to make money. But I'm not saying it just because. So maybe you do need a camera because your primary concern is somebody's been tampering with my car. Okay, so putting a club on the wheel is one thing, but then if you have a camera that's located outside your house, maybe he's tampering with other vehicles. So by adding that camera that can pick up on get an ID, a good ID of this person, maybe we can stop him for good, for breaking in vehicles. Or if you are concerned with security and you put 5 deadbolts on your door, that might not be the solution. I will install 5 deadbolts on your door if you want me to. But I am going to tell you a better solution would be to get a better door. If you cannot afford a better door right now, which is perfectly understandable if I tell you to get a steel or a hardened wood door with steel inserts and so on and so forth, that will run you $2,000. Well, I can't afford $2,000. Understandable. There's a better solution than putting 5 holes in your door, which can weaken your door or make it stronger. It just depends. So that's why I am different. Well, within a different category of those that do that type of work, that will give you the total assessment of your security needs versus just putting on a lock and putting on a rekey just because you're paying me. It's not about just because you're paying me. If you're concerned with your safety, then I'm concerned with your safety because it's legitimate. So let me tell you how you really are going to protect yourself. So I thought it was fun that this guy is calling around to other locksmith companies and you don't know what you're getting, right? So he's a good guy, but that's not what, and I like him, but that's not his area. You know, it's like, you know, I don't understand that. If I want a door, you know, and I want a high security door, I'm gonna call a high security door manufacturer and ask for recommendations for those that specialize in their doors. You know, I get it that there's a price associated with that, but if you want the peace of mind of knowing that it's done right and not just the fact that it's done cheaply, then you need to do your due diligence ahead of time. So I don't blame him for wanting to get an additional quote on what he's doing. That makes sense. I don't blame him at all. I would do the same thing. I probably have like 4 or 5 estimates, but I would have done that right then and there. I wouldn't have gone back and forth necessarily. I would have seen, hey, look, these 5 contractors are telling me this price. Okay, so that's a pretty good. I'm doing my due diligence. I can see that, hey, look, this is the cost. Is there any room that we can come off of the cost here or there or whatever? Then we pay for this and do that, and then see if I can bend there. But he wasn't willing to do it. He kind of just hears the price and then he just goes on to somewhere else. Well, assuming that, you know, in his mind, he must be assuming that he's not getting the best price. And that's not the case. So, but he doesn't know that, and that's okay. So I'm allowing him to do what he needs to do. Now with a friend of mine who was going out to do it. Now what should I do? Right? Should I go with my friend to this place and I show up and he sees me, or should I just be candid about it and tell my friend, look, the place that you're going to, I've already been twice. I've already gone back and forth giving this guy an estimate on what to do. So I can't really help you with this job. Because if I help you with this job, then I just cut myself out of it, right? But I want him to learn what I know as well in terms of the doors and the continuous hinges and pivots and all that kind of stuff. So tell me what you think. So just leave a comment and just let me know what I should do in a situation like that. Should I just be honest with my friend and let him know, hey, look, I've gone there already and I know what it's going to take to fix that job. So if I tell you what it's going to cost, then, you know, he's not going to want to do it. So then he'll be forced to come back to me. Or if I tell you, hey, look, this is going to cost you some exorbitant price. If you cut yourself out of it, you know, then I don't know. So just let me know. All right, I'm headed to the distributor right now. I got to get some supplies. I'm going over to do some work on another commercial building. So, all right, thanks.